Raheem Morris's defense may be frustrating to some, but what if I told you that he's doing better this year with a defense that has a ton of injuries than last year and Brandon Staley's first 3 games? All right, folks, welcome back in. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. Today we'll be talking about Raheem Morris's 2022 defense through the first 3 games. Before we get into that, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoy this video at any point. And let's dive into it. So, Raheem Morris and the defense. Obviously, we know what they play. It's called the bend, don't break defense, but there's a lot more to it. I'm not going to get too involved because I do want to just kind of make this more understandable on the surface. I want to kind of go through it, the little things that show up on the surface of good, the little things that are bad, and just kind of play both sides a little bit. So I understand why people have an issue with Raheem Morris's defense. It does make sense. I mean, you don't want to watch the other team on the field for 34 minutes. You don't want to watch the other team gain 81 plays out of it, and you don't want to watch the other team drain a defense early on in the season. There are definitely reasons to have concerns. However, this has already worked. We saw it with Brandon Staley. He had to basically orchestrate a defense over a Zoom call because of the fact that, they had all the COVID stuff going on. We go to 2021 and brand new defensive coordinator at the time, Raheem Morris, was forced to run what Brandon Staley ran, completely new from what he was doing, obviously adding a little bit of his own flavor to it, but still pretty much not really his defense. And so he has started to perfect it, and we're seeing that on display. You look at the 2020 season, and right off the rip, the numbers really show you he gave up 71 points, the defense of Brandon Staley, 71 points, 119.3 rushing yards per game. In addition to that, 253.3 passing yards per game with a total of 372.6 total yards per game given up by the defense. Those are the first 3 games. Obviously, we know the season went on and Staley led the Rams to the #1 defense in the NFL statistically, but it's still interesting that that was the start of the first 3 games. And we're talking about the first 3 games because this is all we have right now. Week 4 is upon us. We're going into week 4. The Rams will be playing the 49ers on Monday Night Football, but I do want to show you things compared to other things because it's very easy to complain. It's very easy to be upset. It's very easy to stress. That's not necessarily the thing that we should be doing right now. The 2021 defense for Raheem Morris was a new defensive coordinator, just like Brandon Staley, who took over for Wade Phillips. Brand new defensive coordinator, but the scheme wasn't really his, right? He was trying to put his own spin on things. Well, when you look at it, you had 364 total yards given up by Raheem Morris, which was actually fewer per game than Brandon Staley's crew. In addition to that, they gave up 281.3 yards through the air per game, which was quite a bit more than Brandon Staley's crew. But then you look at the rushing attack, and the rushing attack wasn't anywhere near as potent against this defense. 92.6 did not allow triple digits like Staley's crew did the first 3 games, and only allowed 54 points, which still stands as the last 3 years as the best output for a defense, giving up the fewest points of those 3. Alas, here we are, 2022. Raheem Morris has given up 68 points this year, the defense has, which is fewer than Brandon Staley's first 3 games, and is 14 more than last year's defense that Raheem Morris coached. The rushing yards are also a little bit higher than last year's, at 93.7, going up from 92.6, but that's still a good number comparatively because Brandon Staley's team gave up 119.3 on the ground. Teams ran against Brandon Staley's team and had success doing it the first 3 games. As far as the passing yards, this is the fewest number of passing yards per game that a Rams defense has allowed over the last 3 years in the first 3 games. That is Raheem Morris' 2022 defense with, I might add, 3 of their top 4 cornerbacks on the shelf going into week 3 right off the rip. And lastly, the total yards, Raheem Morris in 2022 had 346.3 for the first 3 games given up, which is the fewest yet. So, in conclusion, and what do we take from this? Raheem Morris's 2022 defense may be hard to watch. It may be a pain to watch Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals throw that many times, to watch Marquise Brown catch 14 passes and only go for 140 yards, which is only 10 yards per reception, which is exactly why they're doing it. It may be hard to watch all of those completed passes. It may be hard to watch the 4th down conversions. It may be hard to watch 3rd down conversions. It may be hard to watch. But at the end of the day, if they do play this way, it does work. If they continue to play at this level, it does work. For the people that are concerned about it affecting them down the road, well, last year we saw kind of the same thing, right? Maybe they went into a little bit of a rut mid-season, November, but then they came out of it stronger. The bottom line is this. Again, it's not pretty. It's never going to be pretty. But Raheem Morris's soft shell coverage with the zone instead of bump and run is working. And at the very least, he was absolutely not going to play anything other than that when he had 3 of the 4 top options at cornerback and a starting safety out last week. So obviously, he's had to make adjustments. He's had to make key adjustments. They don't have Von Miller this year, so things get a little bit more on his end where he has to be a little bit more strategic because they're not getting the pass rush that they were getting at the end of last year. Also, it's early on in the season. Your defense is not going to be a well-oiled machine. It doesn't happen overnight. And just to assume that things are just going to simply take over from last year where we left off, that's just not the case. There are new players on this roster that weren't on this roster last year. There are new guys in different roles, and so it's going to take some time. However, the results are definitely better in 2022 than 2021 and 2020. I will take the defense giving up a little bit more points last year and giving up few total yards than what they did the year prior. Now, you could argue 2021 was better for the first 3 games because they gave up fewer points, but the point I'm making here is that despite this bend-don't-break defense, despite all of that, this team comparatively is either on the same level or better than the previous levels that we've seen for the first 3 games. Really early in the year, we'll see if this continues, but it's definitely something to keep in mind moving forward. The cool thing here, according to PFF, I do actually have the Rams allowed yards after the catch in this game, and I'm going to read it off to you. Grant Haley had 51 yards after the catch given up. Taylor Rapp had 30. Ernest Jones had 27. Darion Kendrick had 14. Terrell Burgess had 14. Nick Scott had 12. Terrell Lewis had 9. Leonard Floyd had 8. Jalen Ramsey had 6. Bobby Wagner had 3. And Justin Hollins had 2. When you look at that, that is not a bad number considering how far off they are playing. Now, if you're wondering why they were playing so far off, well, Darion Kendrick, welcome to the NFL. Your first job is to basically try to cover one of the fastest receivers in all of football in Marquise Brown. He had 14 catches, yes, but they limited him to 10 yards per catch. The Rams will take that. Sure, people will look at it, and fantasy football fans will look at it like this is a big day for Marquise Brown. 14 catches for 140 yards. However, if you think about it, it's not that impressive. He has to make the plays, sure, he has to make the catch, but the Rams were giving him plenty of room to make the catch. They just weren't allowing touchdowns. They are the first defense in the history of this franchise to not give up a touchdown in 80-plus plays played by the other team on offense. That's incredible. And that is why Raheem Morris is going to continue to do what Raheem Morris does. Again, it's not always going to look pretty. It's not glamorous. It is something that is going to be a little frustrating. But eventually, you would have to imagine that it is going to work even better when the offense starts to play a little bit better. This recipe works when the offense is playing the way they did at the majority of last season. However, early on, the offense is near the bottom of the league in explosive plays, and they just simply haven't been what we expected through the first 3 games. That can obviously change. I believe it will, and I think a big reason for this is not knowing really how to utilize Allen Robinson. I think they just have not utilized him correctly. I don't think they've been consistent enough in the run game, utilizing the hot hand. They did it this week with Cam Akers because, well, he was the hot hand based on the fact he got all the carries pretty much. But Henderson was the hot hand the last 2 weeks, and they just abandoned the run entirely. So I do think there has to be more consistency in the running game. There has to be more consistency in the passing game. And then, of course, I think when you get Van Jefferson back and eventually, potentially, Odell Beckham Jr., I think this offense will be humming, and I think that'll be complementary football being played to keep the defense off the field, rested. That way they can go back out and play that defense that is going to drain them if they don't get help from the offense. So the way this is working right now, it looks a lot worse because the offense isn't putting up the points that they're expected to put up. But if the defense is only going to give up 12 a game and not give up a touchdown like they did against Arizona, you're going to win every single game just about if you have that type of play. It may not be great, but it is strategic and it is working. The Rams offense will get better and the defense will continue to ride this momentum. They'll also get healthier too. They have guys that will be coming back at some point as well. So they did just have to play a little bit more off their receivers than they normally do. They always have the cushion, but it seemed like this game they had way more of a cushion due to the speed that the Cardinals possess and due to the inexperience that the Rams had in the secondary. So now we move on, week 4 against the 49ers and beyond, and I expect that Raheem Morris's defense may not be the sexiest, may not be the most fun to watch, but it will get the job done as it leads the Rams to their second Super Bowl in back-to-back seasons, and I do believe that you can rely on this defense moving forward. Are you annoyed? I get it. I'm annoyed too. I thought the game last week was annoying, but again, there's a method to the madness, and it is working whether you want to admit it or not. The stats show it. So that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. And also, be sure to leave a comment and let me know what you guys think about this video. Do you agree with me in that it's fine, Raheem Morris is fine, the defense is fine, it's annoying, but it's okay? Or do you kind of look at it like this is going to be a little bit of a problem down the line? I do agree if the offense doesn't improve, and I can't see this happening, but if the offense didn't improve, the defense would get worn out because they'd be on the field too long. But I don't expect that to be the case, so I feel pretty good about this defense and the offense moving forward. But that's going to do it for me. I'm Jake Ellenbogen, and I'll see you guys soon. Later, folks.